Hi, everyone. As we always mention, my name is Gerard and this is Allison. And we're here today and we're going to be just discussing. There was something that came up that somebody who listened to the podcast had mentioned. We mentioned this a couple of episodes ago, and they were talking about parental discipline. So we're going to start with that, and we're going to end with a story from Dr. Perry that goes deeper into some other items that somewhat related to that as well. So I'm just going to hand it over to Allison.
Well, thank you. Well, last week we talked about sexual abuse and the trauma of sexual abuse and how it affects us as children and kind of the things that we go through. And because we had that request to talk about kind of the challenges that we face as parents when we have children who have possibly been sexually abused or bullied or really anything. This is really about raising our children better and being in touch with our children. Some of the things that I felt like were very important would have been very important for me as a younger child, would have been very important for me to know as a younger mother, to be able to help my own children who have gone through their own difficulties. Would be to, it's kind of a three-leg stool.
That's a great.
To really try to connect with my child. To do that, I have to be a safe person. I have to be a safe place for my child to go. When they're throwing a tantrum, I have to be the one that goes over them and is putting my arms around them and telling them that I love them and I know there's something wrong and I want to help them. I have to be accepting and understanding of where they are. And I have to really try to help them to understand what they're going through. So I guess you would call that reasoning with them. But relating with your child, one of the things that Gerard and I were talking about earlier, which I think is so important, is when you have children, you want your children to come to you with their questions about everything. Of course, they're going to learn things from other people, but you want to be that person that they come to, that you can help them understand what's real, what's true, and what's not, because they're going to hear all kinds of things. And they're going to take that on as truth, something that's not real.
That's a great point. Excellent point.
Yeah. So
and I'm just going to interject one quick thing here, is that this doesn't mean you have to be perfect. That's the biggest thing too. And this is for every parent, depending on the ages. You can be young parents, parents that are more into the middle age. So all that through that spectrum, again, it's just all about what Alex is saying. It's just to really understand your child and to be that safe place, as she mentioned. That's so important, and to just put yourself in their shoes. If they can see that you're being the person that they need to talk to, that they want to talk to, and not everybody wants to talk to, they come out in some way to be, maybe they just come out saying or screaming or something that's just kind of out of the norm or whatever the case may be. But instead of taking offense at having a bad behavior as being part of it, just understand that being there for them and just trying to help them, because usually that's just the part of the unprocessed emotion that they're dealing with at that time.
Yeah, it's really it's a sign to you that something's going on with them.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not always that you have this. We're all different temperaments. We've talked about the different temperaments, and we all handle things in different ways. But we also have experiences in our lives from birth or in utero up until wherever we are right now, and we deal with things in a way that are based on that wiring and based on those events that we've had in our life, whether they're good or whether they're not. And if we can just look at those situations with our children and see them as, hey, I'm calling for help here. It's not that you have a bad child, or that you have a difficult child, or that you have the one that's, I hate labeling. We talk about that too. And so, I think those things, when we start labeling our children like that, they begin to think that way about themselves. Mm-hmm. And then there goes all those lies in their head about who they are. Mm-hmm. And so I think, for me as a parent, having had children that have experienced difficulty, right. Extreme trauma, and also having experienced it myself, and Gerard has experienced it also, having a safe place for your children, being that person mm-hmm. that wraps your arms around them and loves them. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm talking embracing and holding them and loving them and soothing them and connecting with them. Mm-hmm. Because if we can't connect with them as a safe person for one thing, we're not going to be able to do it for anything.
Oh, that's true. As Allison, just to follow up on one thing too, when you as a parent are dealing with your child who's going through something, we have to remember that in order to calm your child, you have to be calm. So we have to work within ourselves too. And it's all wonderful. It's not something that's burdensome, hard work. It just helps us to understand how to actually have joy when you're raising your children, that you understand that the closeness that comes about from having that type of part of the relationship of, as Allison mentioned, soothing, hugging. And when they go through, everybody goes through trauma, some in, complex, and others as just one-off or whatever the case may be. But to understand that is so important. And once you understand your child's behavior, that there's something underneath it. I can't, emphasize that enough, that there's something underneath. And once we see that, we can truly, as Allison mentioned, just understand that they're at a certain age that may not be age related. Right. So if they're 7, they may be acting like 5 or whatever the case may be. But it could be from bullying or many other forms of trauma. And it just really, when you think in those terms, then it's just so much healthier for the relationship, because you're coming at it from a place of wanting to find out what the issue is or what's underneath to show you love. It's all about love. Right. Excuse me.
Right. Yeah, I just want to add on to what you said about, none of us are perfect. We're not coming at this I made so many mistakes as a parent, and it's the only reason I can sit here and say, hey, there is a better way. And I do have 4 grandchildren now. And so I've gotten to experience, a different form of parenting, more positive form of parenting with them, or grandparenting, and seeing the result of that, and watching my children do the same thing with their children. And it has just been a beautiful thing to see how your children can blossom, but they're always going to have issues, and they're going to have tantrums, and they're going to have something going on. And so, like you said, it is definitely, it's a very hard thing, because we're human, mm-hmm. to keep your composure. But as far as facing challenges with your children, if you're trying to discipline, or if you're trying to relate with them or reason with them, the most important thing you can do is keep yourself calm. Mm-hmm. Children aren't going to want to talk to somebody that's yelling at them, or angry with them, or belittling them. So it's extremely important.
Sure.
To make sure, so that you can have that connection, because they need to feel accepted and loved.
Exactly. And I also, just to add to that, just for a bit further, as we understand too, it's a generational thing that comes down, because people in the past just haven't seen how to handle these things correctly, and they're dealing with trauma. So that's just something I want to add in there as well.
Oh, I love it, because it's so powerful. And it's so true.
Yeah.
If you don't have the right role model, if you didn't have somebody in your life teaching you how to really nurture and care for your children and interact with them, relate with them, reason with them, then you can't do it. If you don't, if you didn't have that, unless you've done, a lot of research and a lot of work to try to be able to do that. Mm-hmm. But typically it comes down through the generations. It's just one of those things that happens. We do what we see, not what we hear, not what we're told to do. We do what we see. We model that. So when I say model, I'm saying it's kind of like that old adage, monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, I think it's extremely important for us to understand as parents that our children are watching us.
Right.
And the way that we interact, not just with them, but if you have a significant other, you have a spouse, you have a friend, whoever it is, they're watching how you do that with them, and they're learning from you and how to do that.
Well, what we're trying to do here is just trying to bring all of this together from the past episodes and certain snippets. And again, it's just the parental challenges that we face. It can be overwhelming based on looking at all the negativity from the worldview and from other things that are out there. But this is really something that's going to help you and everybody who's involved, or me, Allison, and I think the most important thing is it's going to help from here down the future generations, down away from us, because we're helping our children to really grasp the true meaning of what a parent is supposed to be. Again, it's not about being perfect, and that's the biggest thing. I can't say that enough, because so many people think, how many people wake up at 2:00 in the morning and say, I'm not the best parent, I'm not the best this, I'm not the best that. It's not about that. It's just being there and doing the best you can, and just if your child needs you, just be there. That's all you can do. And I know this life is busy, but what's most important, that's the key, to just try to relax, calm down, sit down, and just the joy of helping your child is so, it will be present there. And that's what helps you with child rearing.
What you just said, I feel like I know it to be true. You're giving them a foundation, and setting them up to thrive in their lives and relationships versus not.
Right. That's a great point about thriving in your relationships. That's really what healthy relationships, what comes from that. Because the children know, they feel that they grew up in a great, safe environment, so they can take that and they can understand, and they can be with people and just be themselves. And that's the key. Be yourself.
Right.
That's, be the way God made you. We're all here for interpersonal relationships, and it's just so wonderful. And as we go forward, we're going to, after Allison speaks a bit more of that, we're going to talk about Dr. Perry and a story too that's kind of related to that. And so do you have any questions or anything else you'd like to talk about for that?
No, I think we touched on reasoning, right? That would be just one of the things to make sure that you address when you're sitting with your child, is reasoning with them, not lording over them, just reasoning with them in a way that you're trying to understand where they are, and you're helping them understand where they are, and just what's going on and how you can make it better.
Making it better. I think we all want that.
Yeah, sure.
Oh,
yeah,
gosh.
but that's it.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to move forward into a story from Dr. Perry. I'm just going to have a sip of water first. Dr. Perry is a great psychiatrist, and he is somebody who has learned, and Discovering Mercy has given some a great insight into these things as well. But he has learned about how we can, like we were talking earlier, for our children, soothe and calm and be loving and understand the age difference between what people are going through with their emotions and where the physical age is. And the story starts with a mother and a daughter, and the mother's name is Victoria and the daughter's name is Laura. And Dr. Perry was called in he and his team were called in to try to help most of the doctors from 0 to 4 years old. Were thinking what happened was she was not growing. Her weight was staying at a certain weight, and they were giving her a lot of calories, but nothing was happening. And so they called him. And when he came on board, he noticed something right away. Excuse me, this is key. What's key about it is that he could see the reason So he started to investigate, and this is all lovingly. He could see that Victoria, her mother, was a loving mother, but as he started exploring, asking her some questions, he delved deeper into it. He found out that she was a product of the foster care system, and at that time, she was in this foster care system that had the thought that if you had 6 months with one foster care family, they would take you and put you in another foster care family. That kept happening. So we've talked before about lack of attachment pain, and you have no attachment or attunement. You're not going to have a understanding. And again, it's mirroring. And that's all that she could see. She came into the latter part of her foster care system before she was 18. For a few years, she was with, well, no, just probably about 10 months, she was with a foster care family because they finally realized at that time that pulling them, away wouldn't be a good thing. So as she became 18, there was a rule that was kind of different within the Child Protective Services in that area. She was in that state that said for the foster care parents, they wanted to adopt it, but they couldn't, because if they did, then they would not be able to have any other foster care people there. So because of that, it was really an either or situation. And unfortunately, because the Child Protective Services had that rule in place, she was taken and really put out on her own at 18 into another type of program that wasn't healthy for her. So she was really on her own, just understanding the life and not having the people or mentorship or anything like that. That was really something she needed at the time. So long story short, he found that out. And she, with that family, that before she was 18, they helped teach her morals and things of that nature, which is great. However, she never had that attachment that she needed. So when she became pregnant, she was very young when she became pregnant. That happens a lot because people are reaching out for the attachment. And if somebody says, I love you, or might manipulate you into sex or anything like that, saying, I love you, that happens. And obviously she became pregnant, and that happens quite a bit with other, people at that age bracket as well. So when she became pregnant, and then she was going through everything, she didn't have anybody to help her, to really show her how to be that parent. They were there to show her how to go through pregnancy, but they didn't have that other part of it that's so important for a mother-daughter or mother-son child relationship, either or.
Parent.
Yeah, exactly.
It's critical.
And yeah, it's I'm just sitting here thinking, and my mind is swirling how important that is. And because that didn't happen, what happened when she had Laura is she didn't have the understanding of how to really be a bonding person with that child. So she just knew it was morally right to be a mother and to be there, but she wasn't there, if that makes any sense. She just wasn't there emotionally. She wasn't there physically. And the name of the chapter is called Skin Hunger. And you can understand the reason for that is because there was no hugging, there was no rocking, there was no emotional attachment. There was nothing, but she didn't know how to do it, Victoria. And she wanted to do the best she could, but that's all she knew. So when he came in, I'm fast forwarding again to Dr. Perry, when he came on site after going through all this and delving deeper, he understood what the issue was. And there was a great character in the story, and her name was Mama P, and it's so wonderful, such a great name for her. And what she understood way back then is that, as we mentioned a number of times, the child it's not age appropriate, their behavior. They may be 7, they're acting like 5 or 4. And then so when you understand that, she understood it, she would rock a child that'd be 7 and just sit there and just soothe them and just be, that person that they never understood, to be there for them. And it's just
in his age, he was more infantile,
absolutely,
and needed to be rocked and loved. Yes,
he never experienced that, and she gave that to him. So initially, it was way back, I believe it was the 80s when this story took place. But they have learned so much since then. And Dr. Perry, to his credit, he even said, I learned from her. You can have all the degrees, psychiatry, you could be psychologists and counseling, pastoral counseling. the bottom line is it's love. It's pure and simple. It's emotional attachment, and it's just hugging and soothing and in a loving way, just hugging them. And this is what really helped Mama P with the people that she took care of. She was a foster care parent. And what was so wonderful about this story was that Mama P, to his credit again, Dr. Perry brought Mama P because he knew of her based on another child. And she was able to work with both Victoria and with her daughter, Victoria and her daughter Laura. And she was able to show them how to do that. They did, Mama P did it for Victoria and for Laura as well. And then they could see how to do it to each other. So it was really an amazing story it's all about love. It's all about, interpersonal relationships. It's all about caring, loving, nurturing, and not being afraid about or worried about bad behavior if they're crying or whatever the case may be. They just know that that's what they want, that's what they need. If they don't have it, you give it to them. And it's just and really the bottom line is love conquers all.
Yeah, I totally agree. Love does conquer all. And you think about yourself as a parent and how difficult it is to manage situations that you're in, but you look at what happened with Victoria and her daughter. This woman had been taken every 6 months out of the foster home that she was just beginning to get settled in.
Exactly.
And over and over and over that happened to her. And so she never had anything modeled for her. So that's what we're doing here today, is just trying to tell you there is a way to get that model for you. There is information out there. We would like to help you get that information because we needed it when we were younger and didn't have it.
That's our motivation.
Yes.
To help you understand that.
Yeah. So we want your children to thrive. We want you to thrive as a parent, because having children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren is a joy. And that's the way that God intended it to be for us. And so there are tools for us, there are resources for us, and there are ways to do a better job relating with our children and helping them to come through the challenges. And I cannot even imagine being a child in today's culture. It's very difficult, I think, for them, and just says to me more so we need to be there.
I absolutely agree with that. And one last thing that we need to get into a little bit is that even though it happened to Laura and it happens to others, the brain is developed in a certain way, and the neurons, are affected by it, and the brain growth goes in a different direction and so forth. But the bottom line is it can be repaired, and that's what we're all trying. That's what we're trying to do as a ministry, is to show you that. Again, we're not perfect, and I know we can go into being guilty if something happens in our end. Say we lose our temper or anything like that. It's okay. Just accept it, and we thank God for who He is, and He's taking it all for us. But just remember now, it's your child, and the relationship with them is the most important thing. And we're here as God's representatives for that. So again, it's no guilt. And again, once we understand the tools that we're giving you, and again, we didn't have them when we were younger, but once you understand it, things can be repaired. And God is just a wonderful God. And I just wanted to bring that in too.
Love it. Thank you.
Okay. Do you have anything else? Okay. Well, this is something that I really enjoy talking about, as you might imagine, but it's the thrill and the joy for me, and I know Allison as well, to help you and to help your relationships and to help your interpersonal relationships. And this can work in any relationship. That's something that anybody who's close with your friends or whatever, because again, the bottom line is we're here. It's such a vapor of the time we're here. And God is so wonderful to give us the wonderful gift of life. And we can enjoy it. God has given us ways to do it. And we're just thinking of the brain and just the complexity of it. It's just amazing. So I just wanted to mention that. And, if you have any questions or feedback, please feel free to write us at or email us at millmacmusics@gmail.com. And we'd really appreciate that, because we truly want to answer questions and give further information on whatever you need or whatever you think you would like us to do a little bit more research on, or anything of that nature. So I just want to say that.
Thank you. Yes. And also, our podcast is out there now. This is, I think, our 5th or 6th one.
Yep.
And we would just love if you're listening to it, and anybody that might benefit from hearing from us, and the journey that we're taking through this podcast for helping people live wholeheartedly. We would love for you to share that with others. And we have a website. We have a couple of websites.
Well, we'll look at the
millmacmusings.org is the website where we put resources. We have our podcast listed on there also, and we also have transcription, and we'll have some blogs on there too for you.
Right, exactly.
So, yeah.
So do you want to?
Yeah.
Okay, we just want to say thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
And again, this is just such a thrill for us to be able to sit here and do this. So we thank you, and we hope you have a wonderfully blessed day and week, and have a great day too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.